What's going on, everybody? It's right on time at 9:01. I'm in my truck, not at home. My son, Tommy, he's driving. We were in Columbia, Missouri this weekend for my daughter Allie's uh, family weekend for her sorority that she's in. So then I had to go back and to her apartment and install a bunch of shelves and doors and all kinds of things. So I thought I'd be home by 9 o'clock. We're not going to get home till about 10 o'clock. So I apologize that I'm doing this on my phone. A couple of things I wanted to go over with you. And yeah, I saw a couple of you made some comments there to Ryan. He got a new picture of me. Thank God, that picture before with my arms crossed. I kind of like that pose, but that was 95 pounds ago. So thank you, Ryan, for doing that. It didn't even look like me anymore. Uh, so let's get started first with the assault weapons case update. And I keep looking at the road too. Sorry, my son's driving. And if you see me look up, it's because I'm just making sure he's driving well, and he is, but just a paranoid dad. We were on a few days ago talking about the assault weapons case. I told you guys that we were going to file a motion to reconsider. As you guys are aware, after the Calkins case was ruled against, Mr. Calkins lost his case, which was no surprise. I'd been telling you guys that was likely going to happen for months. And then after he lost his case, the judge in our case, without having any hearings whatsoever, and moreover, without the governor or the attorney general even asking for it, the judge dismissed our case in its totality and vacated the temporary. For those of you that are in the case, was a link in a press release put out a few days ago as well. Hello, Joan, how are you doing, ma'am? We put that out and we actually filed the motion to reconsider. And the timeline, so you guys are aware, is that from the date we filed that, which was the 14th of September, then they have 30 days to file a response. So they have 30 days, which will be October 14th, to file a response to our motion to reconsider. Then we will have 21 days from the 14th in order to file a reply. Okay, so that'll put us to about November 4th or 5th, someplace like that. And then sometime in November, we'll have a hearing in front of the judge on our motion to reconsider. Okay, does that make sense? I see a lot of questions of why. David asked a fair question. I can't answer those questions why. If I had the answers to the questions of why, I wouldn't just be a lowly lawyer for a living. I'd be, predicting the stock market, David. I don't know why. So sometime in November, I don't think I'm froze up. Anybody else got me froze up? David Meyer said I was froze up, but I don't think I am. So sometime in November, we will have a hearing on our motion to reconsider, okay? After the governor has filed a reply or we file a response and we file a reply. So as soon as I got their response, I will send it to you guys. As soon as I file a reply, if we need to file one, I'll send it to you, and then we'll go and argue. As I told you before, ultimately what we're arguing is that Mr. Calkins lost his case because he didn't meet his burden of proof to convince the court that the plaintiffs in his case were similar as the exempt classes. It's like, the governor and the attorney general have been trying to hoodwink everybody, saying, oh, these exempt classes have all the specialized training in the banned weapons. And since they have the specialized training in the banned weapons, they're not the same as everyday citizens. And that's how they won at the Illinois Supreme Court. I had a couple of people I was reading on. I don't read a lot of comments on social media, but I read a few of them that said, well, why are we talking about training? We're losing the argument if we're talking about training. What does it have to do about training? Well, with all due respect to the people saying that, it has everything to do with training because that's what the Illinois Supreme Court says that it's about. Doesn't mean I agree with them. It just means I have to argue the issues that I have to argue, okay? I'll come back. Cheryl Ann asked a good question. Does it help if plaintiffs appear in court with you in November once we know that date? Yes, absolutely 100%. I would like as many of the plaintiffs in this case is possible to be in Effingham County in November at that hearing. I would love nothing more than to have a whole courtroom, again, of everybody. You're all plaintiffs, but retired military in their full outfits sitting in that courtroom, because not only are everyday citizens being told things, the best trained military on the planet is being told just because you retired from the military, you're not adequately trained. I'd love to have them sitting in the courtroom to look the judge in the eye so he can understand that you are in fact well trained, even though this has never had anything to do about training. Okay, I will let you know when that date is. I promise. So again, as the issue of training, as I've told you about, it's important because the Illinois Supreme Court says it's important, because the governor and the attorney general's office have, again, playing this ruse that this has something to do about training. And as I've showed you guys with all these prison wardens, has with training, nothing whatsoever to do with training. They're not even trained very well in handguns, let alone they have no training in the banned weapons. But again, that's the point that we have to make, okay? And that's what I'm working on. So I'm going to wait for a second before I talk about the next topic. If anybody's got any questions about the procedure and the process that I just explained, type it in there now and let me know. Okay, I'll wait a few seconds, but just about, not why you think it's wrong. I understand all of that, but anything you don't understand about the procedure and the time frame of what we're working on. Anybody? Again, Johnny, I don't need to answer that question, amigo. I understand that. I'm telling you it has to do with training because that's what the court's relying upon. You don't have to agree with it. I don't agree with it. But that's what I have to argue. Dan asks a question. Dan's asking the question. It's a fair question about why are we focusing on the prison wardens. Couple of reasons for that, Dan. One is the prison wardens are the only group of the 7 exempt classes that I have any information on regarding training or lack thereof. Okay? We have 2 things that we can argue. One is they don't have any training, which prison wardens don't. Or 2, that there are other people that are plaintiffs that are better trained. But until we can argue about who's better trained than who, we have to lay the foundation of what exempt class has training, okay? The prison wardens don't have any training whatsoever. That's one of the most important things for us to just keep this case alive, right? We'll have time during discovery to get into the details, the nuts and bolts about who has training, because again, there's a lot of law enforcement officers that don't have training on these banned weapons. But I can't get into that because I don't have the discovery mechanism available yet. The prison wardens was what we have to use, and that's what we're using. So again, that's what we're using right now. It's not what we're going to try to continue to use from an information perspective as the case proceeds. Is the procedural issue still an option for our case? Who asked that question? Okay, that's BAM. That's an excellent question. The answer is yes. The procedural flaws of how they pass law. If you recall, 2 of our 7 Illinois Supreme Court raised that issue, going, we shouldn't even be talking in training because this law violated the procedural provisions of the Illinois Constitution. Yes, we can still argue that, and we're going to argue that all the way to the top. But again, we're doing both of them at the same time. So our procedural issues are still alive and well. That was an excellent question. Melissa asked the question, will the TRO be reinstated if the case comes back up? The question is, I'm asking for it to be reinstated. Yes. Can I tell you that it absolutely will? I cannot. But I'm telling you that we are, in fact, asking for it to be reinstated, the TRO, along with the case, okay? Let me see here. Not really. There's nothing really, Jason, anymore to FOIA at this point. Again, to me, all all we have to prove, I think, in the end of this case, but even right now, for this case to stay alive, is to prove that one whole category of exempt persons, prison wardens, have no training with the banned weapons whatsoever. Keep in mind that the lawyers, and I'm not picking on the lawyers because again, these lawyers are doing their job. They're doing what they were told. He lied to the court in Effingham and said that these exempt classes, all of these exempt classes, had specialized training in the exempt weapon or the banned weapons. It's 100% false. They don't. That in and of itself should be more than enough. And if the court doesn't allow our case to proceed based upon those facts, I don't know what else would, to be honest with you. Carl asked the question, what if the citizens have training on rifles and pistols from a state certified trainer? That's a fair question, Carl. We kind of pointed that out in our motion as well, where, we raised the issue again, taking it back to the prison wardens. The only training these prison wardens have is with a handgun. It's really similar training to conceal and carry holders, okay? And we have at least 1,800 to 2,000 conceal and carry holders in this case. And if at the end of the day, the courts want to say, well, conceal and carry holders are the same as the prison wardens, okay, we'll go get our conceal and carry. I mean, I have mine. Everybody can go get one of them. Because right now we have prison wardens who are exempt from this banned weapons law, and all they've got is equivalency of conceal and carry. So anyone with a conceal and carry is exactly the same as these prison wardens right now. But still, I think it's more important to point out that having a conceal and carry training on a handgun is not specialized training on these AR-15 platforms and how to use them and how to store them. I guarantee you a majority, this is Tom speculating, and I don't like to speculate much, these persons, these 22 persons who now are prison wardens, if we walked into a room and handed them an AR-15, they got an AR-15, a box of dummy rounds, blank rounds, and a 30-round magazine and said, make this weapon ready to fire. I guarantee you over half of them would have no idea what to do with that weapon. I promise you. But yet they can be able to buy all they want because of their specialized training in these banned weapons. What? It's just a load of crap. But yeah, conceal and carry holders have the same training as these prison wardens do right now. Absolutely. I don't have an answer to that question, King of Xbox. If everything goes our way and we get into the middle of discovery and proceeding yet, our case goes to January 1st when they said we have to register. Is there any legality? I mean, that we're going to have that conversation as the year goes on. I hate to say that, I'm not putting that question off, but right now we've got bigger issues to deal with in that registration. I hate to say, trying to deal with the Calkins ruling and what it's done to our case, you guys. Carolyn, I don't need a copy of your card right now. We'll come back to that at a later date, ma'am. Oh, Melissa talking about the post I made today when I was at a gas station. I'll tell you guys that real quick. We got time. Hope you guys got time. Me and Tommy are driving. I was at the gas station. I went and I had a low tire and I wanted to get a air gauge, and the guy didn't have one. And this smaller man, very soft spoken, very politely, he's 30 years my senior, but he was still, very, very, proper. Said, "Sir, I have one that you can use if you would like." And I turned around and I said, "Thank you," without even looking. And I saw his hat. When I saw his hat, the first thing I always do, is I told him that I appreciated the sacrifice and the service he made to our country. And he thanked me for that. And he came out and he said, "Yes, I served 3 tours in Vietnam." And he was kind of emotional, I could tell. So I was sitting, my stepfather served at least 1, maybe 2 or 3 tours in Vietnam as well. And it really had an impact on his life, I can tell you. He told me some stories that were just horrific that I couldn't imagine that a person would have to live through. And so I really appreciated him sharing that with me. And so we got to talking, and I mentioned to him, the Illinois assault weapons ban, and he kind of knew a little bit about it. And I said, yeah, sir, a gentleman such as you, it's retired Vietnam veteran, you don't have adequate training to be able to go purchase an AR-15 platform. He kind of chuckled. He says, young man, he says, I think I've got more than enough training. And I'm like, I understand that too, sir. I said, but our beloved governor does not. So it was very, interesting the way that that applied to what we're dealing with here right now, and a gentleman from his perspective. So yeah, I was glad to share that. The federal case is not close to the Illinois Supreme Court as of right now. The Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals has not issued an opinion yet at the Court of Appeals, so it's going to be a while, sir. No, there's no chance for anybody to get into the case anymore, guys. Sorry. I understand the Fifth Amendment violations. I think that's about how do we all become prison wardens? That's a good question. Are prison wardens part of a union? Yeah, they're part of a very big public union. And again, no disrespect to, or I'm sorry, prison wardens. I thought you meant Department of Corrections. No, prison wardens aren't part of a union. And again, the Department of Corrections workers are part of a union. And again, I'm not holding that against them, but it's their union influence, I guarantee you, that had a role in this, them being exempt out, guys. But prison wardens, no, they're appointed. They're company men, as you would call it in the union world. They're appointed by eventually, Governor Pritzker appoints the director of the prisons. The director of prisons appoints the prison wards. These are political appointees. These are administrative people. These people aren't like the guards in the prisons themselves, or they're not like, law enforcement walking the street. These are administrative political appointees that probably they may not even own weapons, to be honest with you, of any significance. I mean, these are not, men and women in blue, or again, prison guards. It's ridiculous. So no, they're not in the union, but they got exempt from this law, didn't they? Somebody said that the Illinois State Rifle Association does not care about your rights. You know, I'm not here to talk about the Illinois State Rifle Association at this point. I've said my piece about them. I wish them the best in whatever that they want to do. Uh, I think they get too involved in the Springfield lobbying activities more than they probably should. And you guys ought to go look at the main lobbyist for the Illinois State Rifle Association right now. I think he came to work in about 2017 for the Illinois State Rifle Association. And when that gentleman came over, he actually left. Most liberal public in the nation, right? Go look at the union. I think it's what's the acronym? SIEUC or something like that. I don't have it in front of me. I have my notes in front of me, but there's a huge national service union, very liberal. I mean, they push all the liberal lobbyists worked for them forever and left them and went to the State Rifle Association. Guys, that doesn't mix, right? You can't be so compartmentalized as a human being that you work for the most liberal lobbying union in the nation and then go to the State Rifle Association. So I've got a problem with that. You guys are, there it is, SEIU. So that's, sorry, somebody sent me a message. I apologize, guys. But yeah, that's SEIU. Go look at that. Their current lobbyists, their main lobbyists right now, came from them in 2017. And so, no, I'm not a member of the Illinois State Rifle Association. I will not give my money to them. I just don't think it's well spent. And you guys do whatever you think's best. Let me see here. I don't want to talk about that too much, guys, because there's a lot of speculation. But when January 1st comes around, some people are going to choose to register those weapons. Some people are going to choose not to. They're going to make the decisions they see best. That's their decision to make. But from an enforcement perspective, what are they going to do? How are they going to enforce that law? If someone doesn't register that weapon, if they make that choice themselves, I don't know. I really don't. I'm not being coy. I don't know how they would do it. How are they going to figure that out? How are they going to? It's beyond comprehension, to be honest with you. I don't know what that procedural protocol would be. So it'll be interesting to see, because I imagine there's a lot of people that are going to make that decision for themselves. So let me see. I'm about done with this, and then I want to talk to something else about you guys for a while, okay? I see people in here chiming in because a little carnival barker, Mark Vargas, wanting to write his little tabloid article. So I'll chime in about that in a second, you guys. My political opinions on most topics really aren't anybody's business. I ain't running for office, but I'll talk to you about that in a second. Yeah, Todd Vandermeide talks on the issues of the law. Todd's a good guy. He's very smart. He knows what he's doing. Okay. Okay, so that's about all of that. You guys got what we want. Okay, let's talk about the state of the Illinois Republican Party in Illinois. I'm not going to go on about this a lot. This will probably be the last time I talk about it on social media, because it really is not very beneficial. Okay, but in November 22, there was an election, and Republicans lost miserably in the state of Illinois. You had the Illinois GOP talking about they were going to red wave, right? It was a red wave. It was ridiculous. And so I knew several months before the election got here that Republicans were going to be annihilated in the state of Illinois. And there you have this split, let's call it. And it's not just Illinois, you guys. I've been spending a lot of time in other parts of the country talking to people about politics. And my sole focus is, how do we win elections in Illinois, right? How do we win elections in Illinois as Republicans? That's what I don't know the answer to. So trying to figure that out. And it's a very broad conversation. And I tell people all the time, you know how we win elections? We get more votes than the Democrats get. Everybody in Illinois that cares about the Republican beliefs is kidding themselves. They are kidding themselves if they believe that whoever the presidential nominee for the Republican Party is going to win Illinois. They are not going to win Illinois. He or she, whoever the nominee is not going to win Illinois presidential general election. Not going to happen. Doesn't matter if it's President Trump. Doesn't matter if it's Ron DeSantis. It doesn't matter if it's Nikki Haley. Doesn't matter if it's Mike Pence. They are not going to win. Is it important for us as Illinoisans who our president is? Of course it is. And everybody that's listening to this probably has a different spin from their own perspective of who they like as presidential candidate, who they think would be best. And that's all fine and dandy. You know, there's nothing wrong with that being important for you. But I'm telling you, as an Illinois resident, there is nothing you can do between now and 2024 to influence the presidential race to the point that your preferred candidate is going to win. It's not going to happen. There's a zero chance of that happening, okay? If you choose to go out here and spend all of your time and energy promoting President Trump, God bless you. Do it. I'm all for you. That's okay. He may be the person that I prefer. But I'm telling you, all that effort that you spend is not going to result in President Trump winning the general election in Illinois in 2024. He will lose. If your preferred candidate is Governor DeSantis, God bless you. Go out there and do it and spend all your time and energy promoting Governor DeSantis. Okay? I'll tell you what, Governor DeSantis, should he in some unlikely fashion win the primary, is not going to win the general election in Illinois. I could say the same thing, but it'll be a broken record for Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, Chris Christie, pick them all. Vivek Ramaswamy, they ain't winning. That's just the way that it is. So we have far too many people in this state, far too many, that are spending all of their time and energy focusing on a race that we can't win. And again, that's not me saying that it's not important. Of course, the presidential race is important. You can influence it, right? You just cannot influence it. It's like somebody that wants to run a 5K, but they're just now starting to go jogging because they haven't done any running in 20 years. You ain't going to go run that 5K. Doesn't matter how bad you want it. It's impossible. You got to start slow. Maybe go run 100 yards or 200 yards and work your way up, right? That analogy works for politics in Illinois. So for me, my focus has always been, since November, is how do we win in Illinois? How do we start winning races in Illinois that we can win? Can we win local elections, school board races, county seats, state Senate seats, House of Representatives seats in the state? Can we win those? Is there areas of the state that we can start doing some good in the next 2 years? And I believe that there is, right? I believe that there is the ability to do that. It takes a lot of hard work, right? I'm not getting paid to go across this state and try to inspire people and encourage people to be a part of their political environment in the area, the state that they live in. I'm doing it because I believe in the people of Illinois, right? I want better for the people of Illinois. And if I thought we could win the presidential primary or general election as a Republican, I would focus on it. But I've made it clear, I don't think we can. I know we can't, okay? So I am working on the things that I believe will improve the lives of people of Illinois from a political perspective. And if people don't agree with that, that's okay, right? My personal opinion about who I think is the best potential primary for Republic does not matter. It shouldn't matter to you. It doesn't affect your life. It doesn't affect anybody's lives because we can't win that race. My views on abortion, what does that have to do with anything that you guys care about? And anybody that knows me personally knows my views, okay? But they don't matter. They don't matter whatsoever. If I can sit right here and say I'm pro-life, most people know, Tom knows that makes sense. But you know what? I'm not going to pass a law that says we're going to put a woman in prison if she makes that choice. You want to put a woman in prison for making that choice? See, we can be pro-life as Republicans and promote pro-life policies without criminalizing and putting women in jail. If you don't like that, I don't care what you think, right? Go do whatever you want to do. Because what matters in Illinois is that Republicans' beliefs about abortion or the presidential candidate don't mean a damn thing because we're in the super minority in all aspects. The Senate, the House of Representatives, we're super minority, you know. So those have always been my opinions, and I've given those opinions to people in private, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about now. When I was running for office last year, I had two different people that worked for me in the communications world, okay? Kathleen Murphy and Mark Vargas. And at the end of my campaign, I used to think that Mark Vargas and I were friends. We're not, obviously. So he knew and has always known my beliefs about what I just explained to you, about why I'm not going to endorse anybody in a presidential primary because we're not going to win anyway. And it's just going to cause more divisiveness amongst Republicans in Illinois when we need to work together to win elections. And he also knows my opinion that I'm pro-life, but I don't think we should criminalize and put women in jail. Right? That doesn't make me pro-abortion. That makes me, I'm not going to put a woman in jail if she makes the choice that I don't agree with. If you don't understand that, you probably ought to think a little bit more about a very complex topic. So Mr. Vargas has always known these things about me. And now in the last couple of months, he's really gotten upset because I've been spending my time trying to figure out how to win elections for the people of Illinois. And I do that by trying to work with everyone. Everyone. The grassroots people that I've lived in my whole life and have been a part of my whole life, from the trailer park to where I'm at today, and to people that are part of the establishment organization that I don't agree with on most things. But you know what? If grassroots want a seat at the table to try to help influence policy and win elections, we got to figure out how to resolve our differences and get along. Well, Mr. Vargas doesn't like that. I don't care if he doesn't like it, but he didn't like it. So he knows my private thoughts on these topics. And so as a way to try to be cool, he asked me a question on the record about the presidential primary. Now, keep in mind, he asked me a question like a pretend journalist, knowing my answer to the question all along because of private conversations. So that's not being a journalist, that's being a sneaky person. And so he asked me the question about the presidential primary. And then when I told him I'm not going to answer your lopsided question, he puts that in print that I refused to answer the question. Of course I did. I just told you what it was. He wouldn't let me explain myself. He just wanted me to give a no, I'm not going to endorse anybody. He wouldn't let me explain why, like I just did to you. And then he posted pictures of Rocky at an event, and he says Richard Porter is a supporter, and Tom's been reject, again, like a dishonest person, is that I'm a supporter. I'm not a Nikki Haley supporter. I'm not a public supporter of anybody. Everybody knows who I voted for in 2016, 2020, President Trump. I was at the Northwest Suburbs Lincoln Day dinner at a straw poll 2 weeks ago. And guess what? I voted for President Trump. Does that mean I'm going to come out and publicly endorse or support President Trump in the primary? No, I'm not, because my opinion shouldn't matter. Okay? And there's a whole lot of time between now and March of what could happen in the presidential primary. And I'm watching it like the rest of you are. So, but again, Mr. Vargas, wanting to try to grind an axe, asked me a question that he already knew the answer to, and he made his little article. Okay? And it was wrong. He did it. That's not journalism. That's playing games for clicks, because he's turning what was otherwise a respected news source before he became involved into a tabloid article. It's no secret. Everybody in the state that's talking about it knows that he's turning into a tabloid article, which is sad and unfortunate because he's in business with what I still believe is a pretty good man that is in a tough spot dealing with this little tabloid writer. Okay? I'm trying to help people of Illinois win elections so they can better their lives, and he wants to be a little self-promoter and get mad and bull up and violate people's trust and write an article. Okay. And then there was an article put out in response to it today by Val, which was pretty well written. I gave a statement in that, and I said pretty much what I just said now. Okay. That all that tabloid writing is doing is it's creating unnecessary divisiveness. Okay. There was a point in time to where we needed to pick fights with certain members in the establishment. But you know what? Beating that drum's getting really old, you guys. It's getting really old. It's not inspiring people to come together and to figure out how to win elections. And if the establishment's doing things that I don't like, trust me, I'm telling them about it. I'm telling them about them right now, where you've got the state Republican caucus trying to influence like they did in 2022. I'm not going to stand for that. I'm absolutely going to speak up about that. But writing tabloid articles about it's not going to accomplish anything, you guys. It's just not going to. So that's what's going on with all of that. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Mr. Vargas can write all of the tabloid articles he wants and thinks he's going to get clicks. That's okay. I feel bad for the news outlet that he's doing it within. I feel bad for the other owners of that business because they're not doing that stuff. It's just Mark But ultimately, Mark violated trust of private conversations, trying to make tabloid clicks out of it. And it's sad, and it's not going to happen again, I promise you, because I'm not going to have anything to do with him. If Scott Casper, the owner of Illinois Review, he's really the owner, okay? It's Scott. You know, Mark pretends, but it's Scott. If Scott wants to have a real conversation about a real topic and talk about it and publish something that people might want to listen to, I'm all for that. But I'm not going to, Mark Vargas will never have a conversation with me and again in his life about anything, because he violated and tried to paint me as a DeSantis supporter, and I'm not. I'm not publicly supporting anybody. I'm repeating this for the end. I'm not going to do it. I voted for President Trump in the straw poll. So, if there's establishment people who don't like that, I don't give a crap either. That's just the way that it is. But I'm not going to go out here and start pounding a table about who you should support for president. I don't care who you support for president. What I care for you to do is to get out and to help us win elections in Illinois, so we're not dealing with assault weapon bans from this legislature. We're not dealing from Safety Act from this legislature. We're not dealing with school choice problems where they're trying to keep school choice out. We think that's good stuff as Republicans. They're just ruling our lives as Democrats in Illinois, and I want to get rid of them. And that's what I'm working on. And Mark Vargas is not interested in that, guys. I'm just sorry he's not. And if the Illinois Review wants to help with that, and they want to help us bring all of this together, then Scott Casper can call me, and I'll be glad to do that with him. That's the only way that it's ever going to happen, okay? So, again, if you want to help win elections in Illinois, state elections, send an email to Ryan or to me and tell us where you live and that you want to help sign up, and I'm all for it. We will deal with it, and we will work, and we will work, and we will work to win elections. And if the establishment, the state caucus, if John Curran or Tony McCombie get in our way, I'll be having a little talk with them too, because you guys collectively are the most powerful voice in the state. We just need to stay on point and not cause us. Guys, have a good night. I'll talk to you later.